Hi everybody.
Hey guys, OVM here.
So we're just gonna do a little track-by-track commentary for our album Apocalypse, being
Comes out
released
this Saturday.
Woo! December 31st, 2016.
Been a fun year.
It has. So we're just gonna dive right into it, and Matt here is going to explain Fallout.
Well, as he said, Fallout's the first one that's up here. It's the first track that really was created as kind of a brief introduction to the world that Apocalypse takes place in. I think it does an amazing job at setting the tone for the rest of the story, kind of that deep droning feel that ultimately there's going to be something big that happens. And, very big. So, god damn you. Next, that brings us to Atomic Children. Atomic Children was actually the first full song that was written when we still really didn't have a clear idea of what we were fucking doing.
Not a
or
clue.
even the direction we were going to take. Really, we started on this album with
Researching the
zero
nukes.
ideas. Zero fucking ideas, yeah. But, you know, ultimately, we just knew that this was going to be the story and the main character needed to be introduced. And it was very quickly finished. I think it took about a week, honestly, to get this track done. And really, we just wanted to bring out the illuminated prophet, quote unquote, and really just kind of set the mood for what kind of person he was.
And now we're up to Rustic War Drums. And for this one, I really just wanted to flesh out the world more and show how it was such a barren and harsh environment that no sane person could thrive in at all. And it was really inspired by Werewolf the Apocalypse and my love of spaghetti westerns. Things like Tombstone, Blazing Saddles, Man with No Name trilogy, all that good stuff. And the westerns heavily inspired the chorus for the song, which was just this picture I couldn't get out of my head of a tall man wearing all black coming into a town, and like an old west town, and just completely taking everything over. And the town to me always seemed like something you would see in Deadwood. And that was really the inspiration for this droning, depressing, evil track. And I still love it to death.
Definitely was an interesting one to work on.
Yeah. We're up to Under a Polluted Sky. And this one had actually been written the longest. I think I had the first draft of it done back in January of 2016. And I just never sent it to anybody because I'm a lazy piece of shit like that. But yeah, no. Well, we didn't even know if there was going to be an album this year until about April, so. Writing it, though, it was supposed to just kind of represent how there's two types of people in the world. The people who have everything and treat those people like shit, and then the people who don't have as much or have nothing and try to overcome the people who have everything and are dicks. And really, I feel like that's something that added to the story itself of the Prophet and this world we've created, along with also having kind of a message in the lyrically. It's something people can kind of get behind, and it holds a lot of weight with them. You know, they understand what that's like.
All right, and with that brings us actually to the next one that's kind of a random track that was done that's more of an intermission. A word from our prophet. This is actually just nothing but crazy talk, really.
Yeah.
It's the prophet starting to show his true colors and the kind of world he wants. Pretty much recorded this in one afternoon, including putting it together, which, you know, not a whole lot too, but
Choir boys everywhere.
pretty much. But it's just kind of showing how preachy he really is to his people, but how much he's in it for himself. That brings us into my next favorite track, which is Assimilate or Eradicate. I believe this one is considered our cursed track.
Oh, it's horribly
Chase would
cursed.
agree with me there. We did try something different vocally, with the alternating parts and slowing down the chorus. And really the inspiration for that was Fuck Industrial by Combi Christ and Aesthetic Perfection. I really liked the way Andy and Daniel did that kind of dueling vocal in that track, and I felt since this song really tells a story of two different views, it would be great for two different people to really share different styles. As far as giving those vocals out. And this is more or less the turning point in the story. It's those who resist are rounded up and banished, essentially. They are expected to die from the elements beyond the safety of the town's walls. Really, though, honestly, I'm surprised that this track was ever finished. With all the problems we had, Mike dying, the song crashing while we're in the middle of recording, and our autosave not working, so I have to go through and redo specific parts of it. It was ridiculous to put together, but ultimately it came together beautifully. This to me is our powerhouse track.
And on that note, we get to my favorite track, Riot. So, Riot actually came together really quickly. When I started writing it, I was just at work one day and I didn't actually think this was going to be a song, let alone be on the album. I was just writing it to really vent my frustrations about a lot that was actually going on in my life, and just all the negativity and response that many people had to change and fixing or dealing with all of the fighting and hate that had been going on this past year, especially, it was definitely worldwide, but there was a lot here in the U.S. that was going on. And you kind of get a feel for that because the overall theme of the song is obedience and violence, and obedience through violence. It really gives you the sense that there's no hope for a better tomorrow, and at the time I felt that was something that needed to be expressed on the album when we actually decided to use it. And this is something that I feel a lot of people can relate to that have paid any attention to the news or ever just been angry for lack of change or having to do something you don't want to do, you don't feel is right.
And then we have Slow and Somber. This one is probably the heaviest song as far as from an emotional standpoint. It deals a lot with the loss of life, and that regardless of who you can lose, the memories are still going to be there, and you can always find a way to hold on to them. This is really, the people realizing what they've been put through and that it's time to change. It's time to change. Time to get rid of the prophet, essentially.
Definitely a calm before the storm.
Yeah, indeed. And it for them, it's kind of a final stand. This is their push to regain control of a city that was not torn apart before he came along. And this is a much needed mourning of what was before the celebration of what could be. And ultimately, this leads to our next track, which is Heretic's Lament. Heretic's Lament, I believe, was the fastest song we had written, and turned out to be the 9th track on the album, but was the 3rd or 4th song that we actually finished. The idea was thrown around to have a guitar added into the mix. I'm pretty sure that idea is what drove us to finishing the track as quickly as we did.
We wanted that guitar.
Oh yeah, yes. Story-wise, this is the rest of the people rallying against what they deem as ruthless and unfair, the treatment that they've been receiving from the prophet. This is them revolting, showing that with resolve and strength that people can have when they really want to change and work together, they can achieve anything. And this is where they finally do what he's done to multiple people from the city, which is drive him from it, banish him, and make him face the elements that he's made so many before him face. And ultimately, this is when he starts realizing that this is the end of it. There's nowhere else near him in this apocalyptic world that we've placed him in. Outside of this city is nothing but dismantled buildings, dust. It's nothing but a wasteland. There's nothing for him to rule over anymore. And that's what forced our hand with the final track.
And so, with that, it brings us up to Death, which is the epilogue for the album, and where our antagonist, the Prophet, comes face to face with Death in the Wastes. And so, the major focus of this whole track was showing the Prophet is scared of death, and when faced with it, he flees like a little bitch. And when he realizes he can't escape it, it starts driving him mad. He just gets crazier and crazier, more desperate, because really he sees death everywhere he goes. Behind every shadow, lurking behind every door, everywhere he goes, he sees death. And he feels oblivion itself bearing down on him, ready to just swallow him whole. And really, he still dies. Death comes for him, but he's completely insane and has fallen so far from where he started at the beginning of the album that you feel like he gets what he deserved, but not in a very graphic way, more of poetic justice or karma.
Really, we just wanted to give you guys some information, some in-depth look at, what made us do the album the way we did. And if you have any questions for us, please feel free. Message us on Facebook. Our email is posted there as well. You can write us emails. We'd love to talk with anybody who cares to ask any questions.
Definitely.
Outside of that, the 31st, here in 2 days, on New Year's, the album will be releasing. You can pick it up on Bandcamp. It's $10, nothing too bad.
We'll have a link in the description for that.
Indeed. And just keep an eye out. We are working on some new content too that sounds completely different from Apocalypse. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to definitely be a different story.
And with that being said, I'd like to be the first to introduce you or welcome you to the world of 2040. Going to be some new characters.
Alright guys, have a wonderful night. And
Bye.
we'll see you in the next video.